Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
But then at some point that happens.
So anyway, I'm ready to go. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part2. Joining me today is...
That groove is Steve Baxley.
that groovy Steve Baxley.
Let's get it on,
I like
Ian.
that. Yeah, let's get it on.
You need to have that goofy, dancey 70s soundtrack going for this whole episode.
Oh, that'd be... I can do that, actually. I got a bunch of music that I'd never use anymore because I just got lazy and made like a basic credit sequence. But I could switch it out for the music I initially downloaded, which in the past people said, man, it's all like 70s groove. It sounds like a porno in the background.
If every video you're listening to doesn't sound like a porno in the background, you're making poor life choices. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just watch porn just to, like, constantly on, like, a repeating stream.
It's like that scene in Don John where he's just watching it on his phone in the college classroom.
I might have talked about this during the Don John video, but a friend of mine at work went to college to be a lawyer. And law school is so competitive because basically as many people as possible are all allowed to, like, to apply and go to school for it, but only a certain number of people are allowed to graduate a year. So it's very competitive to get, like, the best grades and stuff. And he said that there was a guy that would come into class, he would sit in the front row and put his stuff in the desk next to him, and then on the desk he would put his laptop and he would just put porn and play it on mute to distract everyone else behind him.
Oh, that is fucked up.
I
You know
know,
what, if
right?
it works.
Right? Oh, it's so crazy. Anyway, so we're doing an episode on Batman's Soul of the Dragon, not on porn, but that's where this topic of discussion started. Yeah, so we're talking about the animated movie Batman's Soul of the Dragon. Should be fun.
Yeah. So Batman...
This is what, 2 years old now?
No, it literally just came out like last year, I think. I'm gonna Google real
Year
fast.
and a half? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Batman Soul of the Dragon, direct-to-DVD animated DC movie that just came out last year. It's the same guy that directed the... I want to say he's the one that directed all of, like, the recent decent ones, like the Justice League versus the Teen Titans one and Justice League Gods and Monsters and all that. But these people are so interchangeable with how these movies are made that he probably also did a handful of the bad ones, so who even knows anymore? But yeah, this is a animated movie that is not in continuity with any of the other DC animated movies. Wholly original. It's, I'll say very loosely, very, 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 very loosely based on 70s Batman comics, and follows Batman, Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, and Bronze Tiger as they try to avenge O-Sensei and relive their training days. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you right now, if you watch this movie and you're like, I want to read 70s Batman comics, I have so much disappointing news for you. Because this is not
like this.
70s Batman comics. Not even close.
It's inspired by a lot of things. I think 70s Batman comics are one of those things. I mean, it's got, like, fucking Silver St. Cloud in it, for Christ's sake. Silver St. Cloud.
Yeah, no, it's inspired by the 70s, and Batman happens to be in it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, a lot of the aesthetic of some of the Batman stuff, like the way the face is drawn in this, and the fact that there's a little more blue in the hints of the costume, and, like, the oval, That's all very 70s Batman. The Batmobile doesn't really look like I think the Batmobile looked in a lot of 70s comics, but it's inspired by like 70s muscle cars and stuff. This is I don't know, like I really enjoy a lot of these DC animated movies to one extent or another. Some of them are bad, but like most of the time I walk away from them like, no, that was okay. That was pretty decent. I enjoyed that. And this is just one of those examples of my wife coming in the room right in the middle of recording. It's just one of those examples of one that like does a lot that you just couldn't do it. You couldn't do this outside of this like medium, I guess, outside of this direct to DVD like foundational base of fans. It's just very experimental, and I wish they did more stuff like this and less stuff like the New 52 movie adaptations.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because, like, you could never make a live-action version of this would never get approved for a live-action theatrical release.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is definitely one of the most creative and enjoyable ones to watch of these by far. I just think it's kind of funny to be like, this is a 70s Batman movie, and it's kind of not. But no, I enjoy this. I think this is a really fun watch. And part of the thing about it that's hard is, on the one end, it's a 70s martial arts spoof, and so it's borrowing a lot from 70s martial arts movies, but also just borrowing from like 70s movies in general. It's borrowing from a lot of James Bond. The Richard Dragon of this is just Bruce Lee. Even though Richard Dragon has...
Even down to like the fighting style and
down to the fighting style, down to the facial expressions. I think he even like fucking quotes Bruce Lee in a scene. Like Richard Dragon of the comics is based on Bruce Lee in certain respects, but he's not just a 1-to-1 rip of Bruce Lee the way this version is. Bronze Tiger.
Richard Dragon in the 70s was a white guy.
This is correct. Interesting fact that Richard Dragon, Lady Shiva, and Bronze Tiger, and I think O-Sensei, are all created by Dennis O'Neil in the 70s. So this is more of like a 70s DC universe movie in a lot of ways, because all these characters showed up in the Richard Dragon comic that Dennis O'Neil wrote back in the day. But the Richard Dragon of this, he's very much inspired by Enter the Dragon Bruce Lee, where he's a secret agent. He even does the Living Daylights Timothy Dalton James Bond intro when he lands on the boat. Like that scene is straight up from, I think, Living Daylights, which is not a 70s Bond movie, I don't think, but still sort of fits the same frame. Bronze Tiger in this is basically the black dude from Enter the Dragon in the exact same way. And he's nothing like Bronze Tiger of the comics. O-Sensei is nothing like O-Sensei. The only character that really feels like that has like passing resemblance to their comic counterparts is probably Batman and Lady Shiva, but everything else is kind of just reinventing it to be part of that 70s aesthetic. And you would really want something like this to be in live action, or to be more of in like an animation style, because anime and live action make the fight scenes more kinetic or more impressive to watch. Like seeing a martial artist attempt to copy Bruce Lee in like Ip Man 4 is more engaging, I think, than watching like an American animated Bruce Lee fight scene, because it's never going to look as good. Same with like watching Batman Gotham Knights versus this, where like the animation disparity is so absurdly clear. But despite that, this looks pretty good.
For all the shit that like people give these direct to DVD DC movies, I don't know, like, is the animation quality top tier, jaw dropping? No, it's not. You can see the budget, certainly in places. I think like you can see the budget even more in things like Young Justice, as it's been renewed. Like I'm not going to sit here and defend the animation quality, but at the same time, I feel like it gets ragged on way too hard when this is like leaps and bounds above some other stuff that we've seen come out from DC. This one in particular I think is a lot more fluid, and they kind of knew they needed it to be in order to be engaging. But just in general, like, I don't think the DC animated universe movies animation is particularly terrible. Like it's it's definitely restricted, but I think they do a decent amount with those restrictions, and I feel like it gets a little too much flack.
My problem has always been they don't have the best animation budget and best animation quality, which is fine and understandable. But they rest too much of their story material on things the animation just physically can't deliver. So it falls flatter than it should. So like what's the movie? The Death of Superman animated movie, where the action scenes are really, really good. But then like the interpersonal scenes are where they slack on the budget because that's not where the appeal of the movie is. There's always a lot of moments in those movies where either the voice acting is stilted or the expressions are stilted, and it causes something that's supposed to feel emotional from like a quip or from an expression or from a gesture to just completely not land because the animation is just not there for it. So it makes you wonder, why did you even bother writing this scene you know you couldn't capture the timing of in this animation quality? So it's not particularly horrendous, but it draws attention to itself in the worst ways, which makes it seem worse than it is. But that's not a problem here. This movie has one very noticeable flaw, which is very, very bad walk cycles. But aside from that, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've just never been particularly bothered by them from an animation standpoint. Fucking DC did Super Friends for years, right? Like, it's not that bad. I'm sitting here fucking watching Doctor Who classic stories that have been animated because they lost the footage, and it's not that fucking bad.
I'm not going to say it's the worst thing in the world, but I do think it's fair to criticize them for their animation quality.
I mean, I guess I feel like it gets like brought up like it's some kind of sin against the Lord level bad, and it's really not. Like, these things are teetered, right? Like, there's not great, and then there's this is legitimately awful. Like this is just in that not great. Not even this one. This one's
good.
At decent level.
No, this one has good animation overall.
Yeah. I like a lot of the character designs in this. The big collars and the shoulder pads, the open shirts. I love that. That's so good to see. Fucking like my favorite costume in this, or design in this, I guess, is Richard Dragon in the brown leather coat, because that's just so 70s and shit.
That's straight up a Bruce Lee outfit too. It looks fucking sick.
I know, it does. It looks good. It works for him, you know? I don't know why they didn't just make Richard Dragon Bruce Lee earlier. Fucking Marvel did it with Shang-Chi for years.
Yeah, no, making Richard Dragon just straight up Bruce Lee was probably the biggest stroke of genius this movie had. Making Bronze Tiger into Power Man, probably less so.
I don't know. Bronze Tigers, like, do you think there are Bronze Tiger fans out there that are like,
yes,
this isn't my Bronze Tiger?
I'm telling you this right now. I love Bronze Tiger.
No, you don't.
Dude,
you're doing MCU stands right now. That's what you're doing.
No. I like Bronze Tiger. I've read Bronze Tiger in the original Suicide Squad by John Ostrander. Suicide Squad Bronze Tiger fucking rules, and I love him. And they cast Michael J. White for Bronze Tiger in this animated movie, and he plays live action Bronze Tiger in Arrow.
Yeah, he did it in Arrow. Yeah, I was gonna say. I guess he just has like dibs on that character. Is like, no, this is the black martial artist character in DC. That's my boy.
Which he's good at it. It's just kind of a shame because I feel like the Bronze Tiger, and this is probably the weakest link for me as far as the main cast of four goes, because I think they kind of they give him one really good scene, but so much of him is just kind of verging on racial stereotype.
I mean, fair, but at the same time, it's like the cool racial stereotypes for like the 70s black guy kind of thing.
I don't know if that makes it better, especially given that the character he's based off from Enter the Dragon is much less offensive than this.
I don't know. I'm not black. I can't speak to it. I think this just tries to play on that like cool 70s black guy aesthetic.
I mean, I don't know.
Fucking
I don't know if I have to be
what's the
black
name
to
of
say
the
that I feel like they don't do much with him outside of just being the generic black guy in the group.
maybe I don't know. I like his scene where he beats the shit out of Batman. I think that's a pretty good one.
I love the scene
And
with the
I
kid when you see him come
mhm.
back as an adult and he's talking about what martial arts means. I think that's probably his best scene and probably one of the best scenes
Yeah,
of the movie.
I think the problem with him in this for me is just he gets the least time on screen out of everyone. Like there, he's the last member of the group that they pick up and
Hmm.
stuff. So just it a lot of his stuff, he feels like he doesn't get enough time to really stretch his legs, as it were.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the Richard Dragon stuff sort of feels like that way for me too, where I feel like they're kind of just pulling shit out of their ass for him for the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, that is. It's a little like rushed, and it feels like it's supposed to be some kind of big reveal, but there's not enough setup for it, so
There's
it
no
feels kind
setup
of
for it. The only setup for it is that he was the first student. That's not even setting up what they pay off.
yeah. No, I think that's fair. It's probably the weakest part of the movie for me in that regard. But at the same time, like the reveal of it in and of itself is kind of just a cool idea. It's like the one they call Dragon. Oh shit!
Yeah, no, it was pretty
like,
hype in the moment.
like the look on his face and everything is pretty fucking good. I also appreciate that like Batman doesn't get to steal the win here. Like it 100% convinces you they're going to go for that scene, right? Where like it all came down to the end, and it all came down to Batman, and then it's just nah. It goes back to Richard Dragon. He's the main character of the movie. It's it's really funny how these movies have to bend over backwards to include Batman in them so that they can have that like sales cushion. When when this came out, all I heard people talking about, however, is Shiva and Richard Dragon. Those are the characters that people cared about in this. And it's really funny that like Batman gets some good stuff in this. He's interesting in this. It's a much more toned down backseat Batman, which is kind of cool to see again. But it is just like you could really have made this movie and you didn't really need him there. This could just be the Richard Dragon and Shiva movie, and then you would
Oh,
have given more time to
100%.
Bronze Tiger.
Yeah, Batman's entirely tacked on to this to sell copies. He does not need to be in this movie at all. I like him in this movie a lot. I think this is a great version of Batman, but he does not need to be here. He's completely meaningless to the rest of the story. But yeah, no, I mean the Richard Dragon and Lady Shiva are probably the big stars for a lot of people. I don't I don't love their Lady Shiva. I like the moment where we find out where she's up to, and Richard Dragon's like, "Why haven't you stopped her?" And Batman's like, "I'm working up to it."
Yeah.
That's pretty great, but I feel like she doesn't really get like just kind of like Bronze Tiger. She doesn't really get like a lot to do outside of like the one cool moment. And if Batman wasn't in the movie, I think we kind of could have had more just kind of bonding with this just group of three and their relationship to each other. Because there are also two other tacked on characters for the backstory stuff when they introduce Cheshire and the blonde dude who turns out to be the betrayer. And I
Rip.
feel like they're juggling a lot of characters where they're paying off or setting up certain things for some of them that kind of become pointless by the end, and they need to be setting up other things. Like Richard Dragon's whole thing about like, whoa, what was that back there? You weren't fighting them. They were like terrified of you. That does not land at all. It doesn't land one iota. In part because I don't think they to go back to the earlier point, I don't think they animate that interaction in a way that makes me think, oh, they are terrified of Batman. I don't think it plays that way at all. But also because it has nothing to do with the movie by the end. It's just a weird thing he says. And if you cut that out, you probably could have spent more time just dealing with Shiva was the best student, then she turned into a crime lord. Richard Dragon was destined to be the vessel, and he never knew about it. Like, there's all of this family drama between the martial arts characters in this world that's already interesting. That throwing the Batman stuff on there while it's entertaining to watch is kind of boring in comparison to the stuff I want to see more of.
I feel like it's just because we see so much Batman stuff, especially from DC Animation Studio, that it like kind of just weighs on you how needless he is. I will say I do think that like carving out Batman's place among the world's greatest martial artists is really interesting in this, and it does a good way to show. It does a lot of work to show what makes him capable of being there is not his skill in and of itself. It is his determination and the fact that he's got the theatricality and the gadgets on his side. And I thought that was just like a cool way to kind of like say Batman is the world's greatest martial artist because he is the last one standing in that fight, but it's not because he's the most talented martial artist. And I think that is just a cool distinction to put in because Shiva, like the scene beforehand, she throws away the sword to fight with her bare hands, and fucking Bronze Tiger just goes in hard right away. Richard Dragon just gets fucking mollywopped. And ultimately he ends up winning just on merit alone, but with an assist from Batman. I don't know, I thought that was like, as much as I don't think Batman needs to be in here, I don't know if tacked on is the right word for it, because they do a lot of pretty good groundwork to justify his presence in the story, all things considered.
I think the way I parse that is more, I don't think they do a lot to justify him being there. I think what they do with him while he's there is just interesting, because I don't think narratively he really needs to be there. But when you like look at the scenes he's in, all of them are just great Batman scenes, and they're great in context with the rest of the characters he's surrounded by. So like the scene where he's punching the boulder, and they have to reduce it to pebbles, and everyone gives up, and then the master shows up and he's like, "You're still at this, but you have to realize no matter how much you punch, you can't eradicate the rock, just like you can't eradicate crime." And he just keeps fucking doing it. It's a great Batman scene. I don't know why it needs to be in this movie, but it's a great scene.
Yeah, no, like that's the thing is it's fucking Tim and company. They only know how to write Batman, you know? That's the thing is they write Batman and then they put him in different colored capes and write other Batman scenes. That's just how they do them.
And the guy who plays Batman, and this is part of the exhaustion with these movies, is the fact that they bring Kevin Conroy back for all of them, or they hire the guy from the New 52 movies who is just a terrible Batman voice actor. So getting a new Batman voice, he's really, really good in the role, was also just kind of exciting. I love the dude who plays Batman in this. He is top 5 Batman voice actors after this. I literally, the fact that he ends this movie staring into the camera saying, "Let's get it on," is the coolest thing ever.
Fucking Barry White starts playing. It's like, oh, we've got a seducer way. And that, like, that fucking ending though, Steve, right? Like, that's such a good cliffhanger.
Dude, at the end, it was literally just like, hey, the demons, it's your boy, Batman. He just walks into the fucking gate. No, that's fucking hype. I love that. I think that's a really cool way to end it. And it has that same sort of like monster movie. We were talking about this with the Doctor Strange movie where like it's a cliffhanger ending, but it's a cliffhanger ending in the same way something like the original Friday the 13th is a cliffhanger ending, where it's like it's more like a shock for the things you've seen beforehand and not really a promise to do more. Like, I love that they just kind of end them there because that's their next thing, but I don't really need them to make a sequel to that.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot because I don't know what sales were for this one. I don't know if they'll try to do a sequel, but like if they do, I hope it's just like Richard Dragon and Bruce just like at most just walking into the penthouse like holding each other up like fucking bloody and beaten and shit, right? Like there's no explanation of how they got out or what they did. It's just on to the next adventure.
So sales wise, are you curious about this? Because I haven't pulled up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So at the time this movie came out, there were 40. So this was the 40th. And after this has come out, there have been another 6. So there's 46 of these now. Adjusting for sales, this is in position number 39.
Oof.
So, but here's the thing: if you look at the sales on all of these, and you resort it by highest to lowest, it's almost exactly in release order. So it has less to do with this movie and more to just do with the fact that no one fucking watches these.
Steve's always so bright and chipper. It's my favorite aspect of him.
But no, that's interesting that even like the Batman name wasn't enough to like make anyone care about these movies, which is a shame because of all the ones that have come out recently, this is probably the best.
I don't know. I got to check out the Green Lantern one that just dropped.
Oh,
All
yeah,
I've heard is people complain about it.
But yeah, no, it's interesting in this movie compared to a lot of the other DC ones they've been doing, because I think as much flack as we give DC for like their movies and their animated movies and everything outside of the comics and sometimes with the comics, the one thing you can kind of give them that you can't give Marvel is that they really do try different things and experiment with their adaptations a lot more than Marvel has ever been comfortable with doing. Like the fact that, regardless of whether or not you liked it, the fact that we got like a fucking Scorsese style Joker movie is something you would never fucking see at the MCU would do. They gave up on making these direct-to-video animated movies almost immediately, and DC just kept making them and kept trying different things. So like you had one-off adaptations for a while, you had an in-continuity universe for a little while, you had a reboot of that universe, you've had remakes of the same movie within the same universe, you've had anime-influenced ones, you've had anthologies. Like, literally just in the span where this movie came out, you had Soul of the Dragon, you had the Justice Society World War II movie, you had a new continuity Long Halloween movie, and you had the new Catwoman anime, like Lupin the Third style movie. Like, at the very least, DC tries to make these as kind of a catch-all as much as possible, which is nice.
Yeah, they're not afraid to experiment around with styles. It's just, at a certain point, you wonder how many times they can put Batman and Superman in a thing. And like, okay, and now Batman's gonna have slightly pointier ears.
Basically, I guess the quota is like, we can make 3 Batman movies, and that cushions the blow of making one thing that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why the Long Halloween was a 2-parter.
Yep. I don't know. It's interesting to see how these all come together and stuff. And I generally I do like them for their originality.
Yeah.
You know, like, because Marvel gave up on doing it right away, but also Marvel did a really bad job on that. Everyone hates the Planet Hulk one. The only one people liked was the Hulk versus, and even then that was just like, that wasn't even a movie. That was like 2 animated, like, half-hour-ish episodes of a thing.
The Marvel ones aren't bad, I don't think. I think the early Marvel ones and the early DC ones are of comparable quality. DC just kept it going and trying different things and kind of built an audience, and Marvel just gave up after it didn't work the first time. Because they're not great movies, but I would put something like Ultimate Avengers on par with like the Death of Superman movie that they first did, Superman Doomsday. I still think the Sorcerer Supreme animated movie is better than the live action Doctor Strange movie. Like they're not terrible on their face. It's just they gave up so fast it makes it seem worse.
Maybe, I don't know. I've not heard a lot of fondness for those.
A lot of people really like Next Avengers. A lot of people like.
Oh, Next Avengers was the worst one.
A lot of people vehemently are demanding or have demanded for several years more Next Avengers movies. So I think there's a fan base for them, but they just don't come out or ever came out as consistently as the Marvel or as the DC ones. Marvel tried to do the anime partnerships for a while, and they released some original anime movies, and those were also not great. But like you could see if they kept with it, they could have gotten better with time, and they just gave up immediately.
I need to watch the X-Men one of those, because there was a scene that I saw online that made me want to watch it, and I always forget about it until someone brings them up. It was fucking Beast in front of a room of college kids, and he had like a squid thing that he was essentially bringing to life in front of them, showing the formulas, and it's like, and this is how it all works. All right, great. Now it's alive, and I'm going to leave it to teach the class while I go do some other work. And then this one's like, students, please turn to page 72 in your textbooks.
That's amazing.
You know, right?
That's fucking amazing. I love that.
So it makes me want to watch that. But I don't know, these animated, like, they're getting longer. It's almost hard to call them short movies anymore. This is the total runtime on this, and I know because I kept like checking the clock to make sure that I wasn't going to be super late to this. The total runtime on this is an hour and 22 minutes. The movie wraps up at almost an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. Like it's that's damn near feature length. If I went to a movie theater and I paid $10 for that, I'd be like, I mean, that was maybe a little short. You could have given me like another 10 minutes, I wouldn't have complained. But, with how much you and I talk about how, like, movies are too long these days, telling a complete story in an hour and 22 minutes, even with fault, I'm like, you know what? That's not bad, though.
It's funny because, like, as these movies got started, the big complaint was 75 minutes is just not long enough for the kinds of stories they're choosing to adapt. And then they got smart about it and decided, okay, then for some of them we will make two-parters, and for other ones we'll try and do our best to just tell a movie that fits within that time frame. And in a world that's getting progressively longer and longer with movies, with fucking TV shows that have 2.5 hour long episodes, watching a hour and 20-minute Batman movie that's a complete story from beginning, middle to end, even if it's not great, I could still enjoy more than some things I've seen lately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dislike Eternals. I think Eternals is an interesting movie in a lot of ways, but I would watch this 4 times before I would watch Eternals again.
Yeah, it's fucking 3 hours long.
I would literally watch this for longer than Eternals runs than I would for watching Eternals again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. I don't know, it's a fun one. So you said you don't really care for their take on Shiva. Is it just the sense of not getting enough time with her? Or is it
boring? She's just like, I'm the cool, dark, resting bitch face girl boss who's good at everything. And that's it.
This is Steve's problem.
It's just fucking
competent
boring.
Woman.
Well, she's not even a competent woman. She's just boring. She's just like, she's frumpy and she's good at things. And there's nothing interesting about that. Like, Bronze Tiger has a kind of arc where you see him young and angry, beating the crap out of people, and then you have that hard cut where he's become like a mature teacher. And that's really cool. You've got the stuff with Richard Dragon where he goes from being O-Sensei's best student to basically just becoming James Bond, Bruce Lee. You've got a very competently written Batman that really gels with the young, angry kid going out of his way to become the best at everything, but not taking the spirit of the martial arts he's learning to heart, which is why he's never going to be quite as good as anyone else. And then Shiva is just there. Like, what's her deal? Like, what is it about her? What's her before and after compared to anyone else in this movie? She doesn't really have one.
I mean, you're definitely right but it seems like they were laying the groundwork to do something, because the fact that she goes from being the best student to being a crime lord was very surprising to me, because Shiva's usually like an assassin, which fits with the idea of, well, she does it because it's the best way to find people she can fight, and like that just kind of works, right? So then the idea of like having her kind of fall into crime and become like ruthless in that way, that sounds like there's some interesting ground there to cover, but it's just not present, which is a problem.
That's the thing, is like, I think the fact that there is a disconnect between who she was and who she became is not as apparent, because there's not enough about either of those two things that feel completely incompatible with each other. Like, there's nothing about her in her training days that doesn't mean she won't become a crime lord. And there's nothing about her as a crime lord that doesn't gel with how she was taught to fight. Like, the Shiva of the comics that I think is really interesting is the one that is kind of just a shonen anime protagonist, the one that is kind of more ruthless Goku, who goes around wanting to find challenges, is excited when someone can like lay a finger on her, and is kind of shocked and aghast and not offended by it, but it's just kind of like, oh, this is neat. I haven't done this before, kind of thing. The one that is kind of enigmatic, that has kind of seen the world, is wise, knows kind of the lessons that O Sensei would impart on a more philosophical level, but decides to do something that's just a lot more personal and entertaining for her, which is just go around and fight people because that's exciting and that's different. This version of her, she's just stoic and competent, and that's boring as shit. Like, there's nothing about her that says Lady Shiva. She's just boring, competent girl.
I don't know. I think she's got the Shiva energy in like the combat scenes. I think those are all excellent.
Because she's good at fighting, or because her personality comes through? Because I don't think her personality comes through at all.
I think it comes through a little bit. Like when the fucking Cobra agents invade her little back room, and like they surround her, and the one has the scythes, and she's like, you know how to use those. Like, just those little moments, those little like fucking quippy bits of just that energy that Shiva has when she's like in a fight and she knows she's better. And it's just there's a certain like flavor to that I think comes through.
I guess in my mind, the thing about Lady Shiva that makes her more interesting than this is that when she's in a fight where she knows she's going to win, she doesn't sound bored. It like you go back and you read the Dennis O'Neil, Richard Dragon stuff, or you read The Question where she shows up in that for a while. If she's in a situation where someone is clearly leagues below her, she doesn't condescend to them. She toys with them and she has fun with it, and that's what makes her entertaining to me. She has that moment here where she's like, I am the weapon, or like the scene with the size where you're talking about, and she sounds more like Elektra. She sounds a lot more like this is an ordeal and this is beneath me. She doesn't sound like fighting is fun for me at all.
I mean, fair. But she fucking beat that one dude with one finger, so suck on that.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
That was fucking cool, man.
It's cool, but like, there was nothing about like her that came up as unique or interesting for me. And I feel like that's sort of the thing is like, you're doing an animated movie with a lot of these lesser known characters that no one's gonna read, no one can finally like buy collections of. Like, there's no like the complete works of Lady Shiva that you can pick up on Barnes and Noble. So like, having the opportunity to put them all in an animated movie together and sell it on Batman gives you a chance to do things that are unique or interesting. And they kind of have very mixed results with that, where O Sensei is just generic martial arts instructor. Bronze Tiger is kind of just visually aping off of Luke Cage and not saying much outside of just like quippy things. Richard Dragon is just straight up Bruce Lee, which is good and fun, and is frankly better than he's written in most of the comics, or in Arrow for that matter.
Fucking Richard Dragon was an Arrow?
Yeah, the Jeff Lemire version of Richard Dragon shows up on Arrow for like 2 or 3 seasons straight. He's like the big bad for super long.
Jeez.
And then you've got Lady Shiva, and I feel like they don't do a whole lot to say this is why these characters are interesting in their own right outside of Batman. They try, but Lady Shiva is by far the weakest, which maybe isn't even fair, because maybe the weakest is Cheshire, but Cheshire dies in the flashback, so I don't even know if that counts.
I really don't think they were trying to do much with Cheshire, aside from just set up...
Cheshire, yeah.
Well, I think they were just trying to set up someone that you wouldn't expect them to kill. Because, she's going to become Cheshire, so maybe she'll be like a villain later on or something, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, maybe it's not even fair to say she's the most generic, because Cheshire's in this movie apparently. But yeah, I mean, Shiva's the one that I feel like stands out the least, and she shouldn't be, because Shiva, I think, on paper, is the most interesting out of the 3.
I mean, maybe. I'm just kind of like hyped that they put her in, because it is just cool to see her animated and getting to throw hands around and stuff.
It is funny to see her with the big 70s hair, too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little, like, salty they didn't go with 70s Shiva headband, but, you know, we'll get there.
Also, Kelly Hu as Lady Shiva is a really good voice cast, so I'm here for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Shiva. I think what you were talking about, where there's kind of a lack of excitement in her voice and stuff in scenes, might come down more to delivery than to writing. And I think Kelly Hu just does a lot of this very stoic character. Because correct me if I'm wrong. That's she was in Agents of Shield, right?
I don't know if she's an Agent of Shield. I know she's Lady Deathstrike at X2, and she's Miss Lee at Under the Red Hood.
Okay, maybe I'm getting my wires crossed.
She's also in Arrow. She plays China White in that, and that's also a more stoic character.
Yeah, I was thinking of the lady that's like the main like fighter in early seasons of Agents of Shield.
I think you're thinking of the woman that plays Mulan in the animated movies. What's her name?
Mm-hmm. Probably. I don't know.
But yeah, no, I mean, maybe it is part of it is the voice acting, but I don't know. I guess for me, she just kind of comes off as boring and competent, and I just don't think competence is good in its own way. Like, fucking Batman's in this movie, and if anyone's the poster child for boring, broody, competent, it's Batman. But they do more with him in this than they do with her too. Where like even he's got some sort of like darker, more interesting layers here. The idea that like he's in that his commitment to fighting crime and the quest these guys are all on kind of compete with each other. I think all of that's actually really well done. So it stands out more to me that like this should have been such a cool movie for Lady Shiva to be in. And she is literally the most boring part of it.
I disagree. I had fun watching her. I can see kind of where you're coming from, and I don't think it's like, this is the perfect Lady Shiva adaptation. But I liked it well enough. I thought it was fine. It's a good start, if nothing else. I guess I'm just more happy that Bruce Timm and company didn't fuck it up. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could have been significantly worse. You're right.
Yeah, it's like, it just, when you think of Bruce Timm and, like, female characters, I don't even know if he's, like, heavily involved or in the writing or anything for this one. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, I mean,
these don't have a great track record with... DC Animation doesn't have a great track record with female characters.
Well,
so.
And track record-wise, like, what are you comparing the Shiva to even, really, right? Because she shows up in Young Justice, and she's terrible in that. And she shows up in Beware the Batman, and she's basically just, like, random henchman for Ra's al Ghul in that. So, like, of the three, this is probably the best?
Isn't she in something else?
Is she? I don't remember.
I feel like she's in something else, and I can't place it off the top of my head. You were listing them, and I was like, oh yeah, and this thing, and then it instantly left my brain.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's her track record, is that she's barely in things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no,
right.
It's cool to see her animated. It's cool that they decided to do a 70s martial arts Batman movie in principle. I just sort of feel like they kind of dropped the ball with her, and they maybe could have evened it out more with the other characters a bit. The Bronze.
Oh, she was in fucking Hush. That's what it was.
But
briefly,
that doesn't count. Everyone was in Hush.
She
Have
was
a
in
line in Hush?
Yeah. It's funny because they just reused the character design from Young Justice, but just took off the stockings that she's wearing in that. So she's got just like bare thighs. So it's just the hornier alt of her Young Justice design.
That's hilarious. Damn, I have not seen that Hush movie in a very long time, but I don't even remember her speaking in that. I might have to go back. But yeah, no, I the Bronze Tiger thing in particular is also kind of weird because I feel like they introduced the whole plot of the movie in like an aside line he has an hour in, which is such a weird choice.
I mean, fair, but hear me out on this, okay? There was some fight scenes, so therefore, fuck you.
it's just a weird movie. It's weird because it's a fun, entertaining. I'm really not trying to think super critically about it movie, but like there are also just these weird things they do here. We're like, okay, wait. So you had your main character who's literally just Bruce Lee James Bond, and you decide to throw in a spy plot at the last minute and give it to someone else. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I don't know, man.
It's so weird. Like you're really saying you're just gonna make Bronze Tiger go around and stop evil organizations when Bruce Lee is right there? It's such a weird thing to write.
I don't know. I've got nothing for it. I really don't. I'm sorry.
I don't hate this movie. I feel like I'm sounding like I hate it. I don't hate it. It's fine. It's entertaining.
Okay. Is there... I mean, we're only like 40-ish minutes in, but we're supposed to go for an hour, but I don't really know if there's much else to talk about.
I wish Matt was here, because Matt is a lot more positive on
Yeah,
this.
Matt said he fucking loved this movie, so Matt's listening to this episode right now and just like seething, and he's gonna leave Geeky Gentleman over this. Oh, okay, let's talk about this, because I fucking love this guy. As far as like evil henchmen go, the fucking dude with the white suit and the gloves and the snake arms, that was fucking hype. I don't give a
really
fuck.
cool. He was the best henchman in the movie. I love that dude.
Yeah, I love that we don't even know his name. He's just so fucking like badass. The whole like
Just
you sit there
pale
like,
snake dude.
yeah, why the fuck didn't you whip out the snake hands earlier? Well, like shit, it's so cool.
I also love that this movie maintains the thing about ninjas in every movie, which is they're just not good at being ninjas because they'll just start showing up places. It's fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Batman is more of a ninja in this movie than the actual ninjas.
I don't know. It's just cool. I liked him. I liked his whole fight scene. I think that's probably my favorite fight in the movie, just because it's like, it's one of those things where, yeah, you talk about, oh man, if they did this in live action. Well, if they did this in live action, like in the 70s, they wouldn't be able to like do that right. It would be like that cool scene that like was on the page, it was great, but like execution, it was terrible or something. And so just the way that they end up selling it in the end and how everything works with it, I thought was just really cool. And it looked pretty good in animation.
Yeah.
Especially when he fucking cuts off the arm and then the like monster grows out of it. Not a fan of the snake monster that grew out of the severed arm. I kind of wish they'd just reuse the design of the things that came out of the gate.
Those things are pretty cool. The fight scene with all of the students when those things first showed up out of the gate was also really fun to watch.
It's just like the snake monster that grew from his arm, like it grows legs, and that just feels wrong.
Well, the snake with legs in general feels kind of wrong.
Yeah, I know. So I didn't care for that.
I did like the whole cult of the Cobra supernatural plot to this. I thought it was fun. It was cheesy. It was very B movie, so I enjoyed that. Also,
the scene in the beginning where they introduce him and introduce the guy and like he kills the lady with
that's such
and like eats the rat.
It's such a weird villain introduction, but I was kind of here for it.
I mean, it's such a good like Bond villain, gonna like
100%.
Dance for me. Like, it's so good. This is my favorite part. I love that. It's a great scene.
Very, very James Bond villain, which I appreciate. And all of the sort of like underlings are all like good James Bondy kind of like one note underlings, which I really like. I like the blind fighter dude. I thought that was fun. Like he just fucking shows up out of nowhere and is blind. It's kind of great.
I mean, it's fun, but he gets beat in like the most generic way to beat the blind martial artist thing, where it feels like, man, he really should have like compensated for that, because Richard Dragon just starts throwing rocks and he's like completely off his rocker. Like that's no good. That'd be like my first strategy, man.
But he also gets Bruce Lee 1-inch punched, and that's kind of hype.
No, I like that part a lot. That was dope.
I
One Inch
also
Punch moments are top tier.
I also very, very much like O Sensei's "What do you have that no one else does?" and Batman's just like a cape,
Cape.
just chokes the dude.
It's fucking good. Like it's very Batman. Like it's not only very Batman and not only very like martial arts. It's just very like 70s movie like for the one-liners. I am the weapon. A cape. There's just so many of those that it fits well.
If there is one thing this movie absolutely nails, is that it does nail feeling like a 70s movie. Everything about it feels very, very 70s. I love that they did a whole opening credits musical Bond thing at the beginning, too. Like, that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's all good. And you get like the silhouettes and stuff. Always love those.
No, that we don't even do that in like real spy movies anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, it's just the 70s went and did it so hard that it was like perfected.
Yeah, I mean, I watched No Time.
You can never
to
go
Die.
back.
Sorry, go ahead.
You can never go back now. It's been done too well.
Oh no, exactly. I mean, I watched No Time to Die the other day, which is the latest James Bond movie, and I mean, James Bond movies always have to have opening title sequences, but you really get the sense that like they really lost their way with these because it's one of the worst like music to visual matches I have ever seen, which is such a shame for a movie that is all. Maybe that's the other thing, is that this movie is a much better James Bond movie than the latest James Bond movie, if for no other reason than the new James Bond movie is almost 3 fucking hours long.
Why are they all so long, Steve?
James Bond is about fucking people and fucking people over. And it's 3 hours long and boring, and that seems like a crime against humanity. Like, if this is a better James Bond movie than like the last 3 James Bond movies, we got a problem.
It do be that way though.
It really
do.
You really do.
I hate it. Well, I don't know. I like a lot about what's going on in this.
Yeah.
I do think you're right. It's far from like a perfect movie, but it's got just it does enough right, and it just sells it so well with the aesthetic that you kind of can't help but love it. Could they have done things to make it better overall? Certainly. But just I do find it to be quite an enjoyable film, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I enjoy it. I think comparatively it's really fun to watch compared to the other DC animated movies. There's a lot of things about it that are fun in and of themselves. It's a good Batman. It just does kind of have those weird problems though, where it's like the bar is so low that it rises above it fairly easily, but then you try to measure it by like anything else of substance and it kind of falls flat pretty quick, which is a shame. One last little note I have here is Richard Dragon, who's basically just Bruce Lee, is also not the first time that this voice actor has basically just played Bruce Lee.
Well, then they went to the right guy.
Yeah, they so he's if you don't know his name off the top of your head, he's also the main villain / martial artist bad guy from John Wick 3, Zero, the dude with the short sword knife thing. But he is more
seen John Wick.
He is more famous for playing Jimmy Lee in Double Dragon from the 90s.
Okay.
No Double Dragon fans in the crowd?
No Double Dragon fans in the crowd.
You didn't play the video game as a kid or anything?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, never mind.
I don't know. It's been too long. I don't remember. I'm an old man, Steve.
Oh, well,
2006 was a long time ago.
God damn you.
That's a callback to something you guys didn't get to hear.
People will never know. They will never hear the other side of these calls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no.
Unless I forget to edit out the audio.
Don't edit out the audio. But yeah, no. He played Jimmy Lee, and also a cool Bruce Lee connection is that John Wick 3's final fight action set piece inside of the tower, where like he fights different foes with different fighting styles as he gets higher and higher up the tower. That's just a straight ripoff of Bruce Lee's Game of Death. So that's a fun little and a little connection.
Yeah, for sure. Game of Death, the greatest movie never made.
Yes, The Game of Death. Did you know the original like theatrical cut of that movie after Bruce Lee died? Like they literally just like used shots of his funeral in the movie.
I didn't know that. What I did know is they like have a scene where they're talking to his character and they just have a guy sit down on a couch and they like cut a picture of Bruce Lee out of a magazine and put it on a mirror.
Yep. Yeah.
And then filmed the mirror.
Yep. Yep. That's a whole thing. There is a lot of things about the making of the Game of Death movie that are just like weird and disgusting in retrospect, but also just hilarious to think they can get away with. Game of Death is the Bruce Lee parts of Game of Death are amazing, but the stuff that they had to piece together after he died are pretty awful.
Okay, here's my question for you, Steve. And I think I know your answer, but I'm just genuinely curious. Game of Death re-release that keeps all the original Bruce Lee footage and uses like deep fake CGI technology to do the in-between scenes?
No.
No, you wouldn't stand for it.
No, I will not have this. I will not have this besmirch the name of Bruce Lee, especially when you can do the better thing, which is take the concept and retool it for your own original movie, like John Wick. Bruce Lee does have an interesting pace, though, in history, where like there's a fine line between like being the first to make something iconic and being the best at it. And Bruce Lee definitely fits more into the category of the first because, like, Fist of Fury is a really iconic movie, Enter the Dragon's a really iconic movie. But, like, to be completely honest with you, we have done the mirror fight scene significantly better in the years since. And the remakes of Fist of Fury that Jet Li did is also just a significantly better movie.
Jet Li movies. Those are a thing. I was watching, what is it? Is Romeo Must Die?
Oh, that's a fun movie.
Well, it's funny because like, so there's like 3 factions of villains in that movie, and each of these 3 factions of villains have like their own number 1 guy, right? And each of these number 1 guys, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, all have a really tiny pair of sunglasses on.
Oh, that is beautiful. The best.
It's such a specific, like the main minion henchman has just a little tiny pair of sunglasses. It's just so weird. If you ever watch Romeo Must Die, again, just notice it. It's very apparent.
If anyone wants more martial arts movies after watching this, my favorite Jet Li movie is probably Hero. I don't know if you've seen that, but Hero fucking rules.
I think I did a long time ago. I don't care for Jet Li's non-English movies as much. They just never hit as well for me, and it's probably because I'm too busy reading to pay attention to what's actually going on screen.
There's also
the fault with subtitles that I always have.
There's also a lot of like we've been better about this as time has gone on, but Jet Li did also suffer from that sort of weird American release thing where a lot of his original martial arts movies that got ported over into America were recut and made worse. So if you've ever seen any of those, I would not blame you for not going back.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know. I don't think it was, because Hero was pretty late in his career where he was like had a level of prestige. Favorite Jet Li movies. Favorite Jet Li movie is The One, because that movie's fucking sick. And then close second is Unleashed, because that movie's fucking great.
Unleashed,
but, like, The One is just so fucking cool.
Yeah, no, Unleashed goes really fucking hard. But I mean, there's the dude has done so many fun movies over the years. He has done regrettable movies as well, like Lethal Weapon 4. But in sandwiched between things like Lethal Weapon 4 are Romeo Must Die, like you pointed out, and also Once Upon a Time in China, which is also a great movie.
I wonder if he got Rodriguez to direct that
one. Unleashed is great. Do you remember Fearless? Fearless is really fucking good.
Maybe. What's the one he did with Jackie Chan?
Forbidden Kingdom,
Okay,
where he plays like the Monkey King, I think.
maybe.
He also did one of those straight-to-DVD Mummy sequels, I think.
No, it wasn't straight to DVD. The Mummy 3 was a theatrical release.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah,
Someone
and he's the
thought-
Dragon Emperor, and Brendan Fraser came back, and yeah.
It's hard to believe someone watched that movie and thought this could go to a theater. But I'll take your word for it.
It's very clearly that they wrote the original draft of the script shortly after The Mummy 2.
Okay.
And then they're like, okay, it's been like 10, 15 years. Let's just do a slight update to account for the changes in age. You don't think we need to go back and do another draft of this because tastes have changed? No. People loved this in the late 90s. This is what we need.
Honestly,
Okay, boss.
if they fucked up anywhere, it's that they didn't wait longer to release it.
Like, forever?
No, because I guarantee you, if you probably re-released that movie today and didn't release it back then, everyone would go lose their minds over, oh my god, it's the Mummy! Look, it's Brendan Fraser! This is such a great nostalgia trip! This is like a movie from the early 2000s!
Maybe. You might be right. Anyway, I think we're pretty firmly off Batman Soul of the Dragon by now, so we should probably just give the score and wrap up. Steve, why don't you go ahead and go first? I'm curious where you finalize this one.
I like this movie. I think it's a fun ride. It's one I would definitely just kind of watch on a lazy Sunday afternoon. It's got some really fun moments. I love the Batman voice, and it did give me one of my favorite animated Batman scenes with that boulder scene. I thought that was just genuinely a great Batman moment. Also, seeing Silver St. Cloud in animation for 12 seconds is better than never seeing her in animation, so that's always good. I'll give this one 3 out of 5 extremely boring deadly assassins.
Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and give this movie, I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you. Overall, I'll give this 3 out of 5. You can only use your finger. Dude, if I am to fight someone, and they are told you can only use one finger, and they still want to fight me after that, I'm so not happy. That is
your first sign of wait a second. What do you mean I can only use one finger? What am I missing?
Just every time some shit like that goes down in a movie, and I get like fighters gotta be confident in themselves to carry themselves through a fight. This is why I'll never be a good fighter, because I'm just filled with too much self-doubt to be nah, why can they only use one finger? That doesn't seem fair.
He definitely has some white family moves into a murder house energy at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it helps that guy dies later on, but still.
It is always nice when that happens.
Yeah.
His going off the rocker immediately after that is really funny in context if you think that maybe it's just because he got beat by Lady. Good times.
Yeah, fair. All right. Well, Matt gave us a topic to talk about for next week. What is said topic going to be?
So Matt wants us to talk about our fixation on remasters, remakes, and re-releases. In particular, the good ones, the bad ones, and just the weird cash grabs, like, for example, The Last of Us.
Nice. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the Batman erotica lover.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's
so
plenty. You even have some animation of that one.
It's true. There's an entire parody industry devoted to this.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Well, everyone, until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
You just said that.
Yeah, I did. Why am I so bad at this now?
Until
next time, we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things. You know what it is? It's because you guys keep fucking changing your things, and then I feel the need to comment on it, and then I'm not doing outro mode anymore, and I'm just off on conversation mode. I'm okay, now it's time to wrap up.
Have you tried paying attention?